Don't answer the door after sunset, even if it's your mother's voice begging to be let in. That's what I should have told myself the night everything went wrong. But I was stuck in the same rut as every other Tuesday. Microwaved ramen in a chipped bowl, reruns of sitcoms I can practically quote by heart, and my phone buzzing with rent reminders I can't afford to ignore. My name is Jake, 32, customer support for a cable company nobody likes. Still living in my dad's old duplex, trying to keep it together since he died last winter. Money's tight, my sleep's worse. It's just me and my little sister, Lexi, 16, too smart and way too angry for this town. Since Dad passed, she's been slipping out at night, coming home with stories I don't believe and bruises I can't explain. I told myself I'd keep her safe. That's about the only promise I've managed to keep, until last night. I used to be afraid of closed spaces, years of panic attacks in bathroom stalls or wedged between strangers on the subway. But lately, I've found comfort in walls. It's everything outside them I can't trust anymore. The weirdness started after daylight savings. People in town acting off, staring too long at nothing, making this clicking noise with their tongues when they think you're not listening. The worst is after dark. By then they move different, stiff at first, then almost too smooth like they're trying on someone else's skin. It was nearly 7 when the power flickered. I was on my second bowl of ramen. Lexi hadn't come home. My phone glowed with her last message. Don't open the door, no matter what. But I read it too late. Because that's when I heard my dad's voice, muffled and pleading from the porch. He's been dead 7 months. Something shuffled across the porch, slow and wet, like someone dragging a soaked rug. The bowl slipped from my hand, burning my thigh through the sweatpants. The porch light flicked twice, then died. I crept toward the door, my heart a hummingbird in my chest. The voice outside got louder, less like Dad, more like something learning to speak. It kept saying my name, slurring it, getting the vowels wrong. My hand shook as I reached for the chain lock, the urge to open overwhelming. What if it was Lexi tricking me? Or worse, in trouble and needing help? Then came the clicking, right behind the door, dozens of tongues snapping together like cheap plastic toys. And above it, the voice croaked out, "Let me in, Jakey." The power cut out completely. My phone buzzed again. Lexi. Her ringtone, the one with the static and distant radio chatter, echoed through the dark. I fumbled it open, my fingers slick with sweat. The message was just one word, HIDE. I froze, staring at the shadow shifting under the doorframe. My knee throbbed, old scar from a bike accident, pulsing with the memory of falling, of something broken that never quite healed. The clicking outside grew louder, more urgent, as if whatever was out there could smell my fear leaking through the walls. I had seconds to decide, lock myself in the bathroom with the old baseball bat, or make a run for Lexi's room and the attic hatch she swore was an escape route. The front door handle rattled, slow at first, then with a strength that didn't sound human. I could see the shape through the frosted glass now, tall, too thin, head cocked at a wrong angle. Its mouth never stopped moving. My phone buzzed again, a new message from Lexi. "They can hear your thoughts if you panic." I clamped a hand over my mouth, trying to swallow the terror down, every instinct screaming to run, to bolt, to do something. But the thing on the porch was already pressing its face to the glass, and its eyes were empty. I edged back from the door, barely breathing, feeling that old tight pain in my chest. Panic rising, chest about to lock up. I kept my hand pressed against my mouth like that would keep the thing outside from hearing me think. The floorboards creaked under my heel and the shadow twitched, craning closer to the glass, head swaying as if listening for something beneath my skin. Lexi's words pulsed in my mind. I tried to focus on anything except fear. I pictured the crumpled Polaroid wedged behind my phone case, me and Lexi, grinning in cheap Halloween masks, Dad pretending to be a zombie. A stupid memory, but the details steadied me. My heartbeat slowed, barely. I could hear the things breathing now, wet and arrhythmic, like someone slurping soup in the dark. I slid my phone into my pocket, inching toward the hallway without looking away from the door. I was careful, every movement slow, silent, feeling sweat stick my shirt to my back. The house settled behind me with tiny pops and groans. Each sound could have been Lexi, or something else, and my skin prickled with every uncertainty. In the kitchen, moonlight made everything ghostly. Dishes on the counter, Dad's battered mug by the sink, Lexi's backpack half-zipped with her purple inhaler clipped to the strap. That inhaler. Last winter she nearly died during an asthma attack. If she was out there somewhere running or hiding, she'd need it. My stomach knotted. I almost went back for it, but the sound at the front door changed. Less desperate, more impatient. Nails scraped glass. I shuffled down the hallway, knees stiff, holding my breath so I could hear over the noise in my head. Halfway to Lexi's room, a new sound cut through, a low, rasping whistle. It started in the backyard, under the window, then picked up a strange echo inside the house. It was off-key, random, no tune, like someone trying to imitate a bird and failing. I reached Lexi's door and pushed it open. Her room was chaos. Clothes, books, string lights tangled around the mirror. The attic hatch above her bed gaped open, dangling a rope ladder down to her pillow. A crumpled blanket hung halfway out of the crawlspace. No sign of her. I whispered her name, then froze, listening. Nothing. My knee ached from crouching to check under the bed. Nothing but dust, an old tennis shoe, and a tiny faded keychain. The whistle outside grew sharper, doubled with a thin, high-pitched keening that made my teeth ache. I glanced back, just a sliver of hallway visible from the bedroom. Shadows crawled across the wallpaper as the porch thing moved away. I hesitated, then grabbed the inhaler from the kitchen, keeping my back to the wall. I moved fast, darting up the ladder into the attic. I pulled the hatch closed and sat in total blackness, dust choking the air. My phone's dim screen was the only light, Lexi's last message still glowing. I pressed myself against the insulation, heartbeat rattling. Something shuffled below, moving from room to room. Its footsteps were wrong, too deliberate, then pausing for minutes at a time. Every so often it would whistle, and the sound would bounce through the vents, warping until it sounded almost like my name. In the dark, I found the frayed wallet photo in my back pocket. Me, Lexi, Dad, Halloween, that impossible normalcy. I gripped it hard, fingernail bending the edge. My phone buzzed, soft and frantic. This time, Lexi's voice. A voice memo. Just breathing at first, then a whisper. If they find you, don't let them touch your skin. The attic hatch creaked. I held my breath, clinging to the photo, not daring to move, as the sound of that clicking filled the ceiling above me. I pressed my back into the insulation, every muscle tensed. The clicking crawled across the attic floor, slow and arrhythmic, never settling into any pattern my mind could predict. I blinked sweat from my eyes and tried not to think, afraid even my panic would give me away. My phone's glow turned my hands ghostly blue as I clutched the inhaler and the old wallet photo like talismans. Below me, footsteps paused. Then the whistling started up again, louder, somehow closer, echoing in the ductwork behind my head. It was nearly impossible to tell where the sound came from. My breathing hitched. I tried to slow it, counting backwards like my old therapist taught me. The taste of dust and fiberglass coated my tongue. A scraping noise made the hatch tremble. Something tested the weight, pressing upward. I kept still, picturing Lexi doing the same thing wherever she was, trying not to move, not to make a sound. I wanted to text her back, anything, but every tiny noise made my thumb freeze above the screen. Another footstep, closer this time. Then a slow, deliberate tapping on the attic hatch, 3 short knocks, then 2, then a long, dragging scrape like someone pulling their nails across a chalkboard. I bit down hard on the inside of my cheek, blood welling in my mouth, forcing myself to stay silent. I remembered the time Lexi hid from a thunderstorm in this attic, shivering and crying in my arms, the two of us whispering jokes to keep her calm. I'd do anything to hear her voice now. The tapping stopped. I heard breathing, ragged and wet, and a voice, almost my own, but not quite, softly repeating, "Come down, Jake. It's safe now." I gripped the inhaler tighter. My knee pulsed, nerves sparking pain where the scar twisted under my skin. I tried to picture myself anywhere else, a stupid daydream of a real dinner, or just sitting on the porch with Dad, talking about nothing. My mind latched onto anything except the thing waiting below. Suddenly, the attic hatch shook. Something pulled at it hard enough to bend the hinges. The insulation crumbled around me, making it harder to breathe. I panicked, almost gasping, but the memory of Lexi's voice memo snapped me back. "Don't let them touch your skin." I pressed myself against the far wall, straining for any sound of Lexi, any sign she was near. My phone buzzed just once. This time it wasn't Lexi's ringtone, just a generic chime, barely audible over the scraping. A new text popped up on the screen from an unknown number. "You can't hide forever. We know where you are." The hatch gave a final, violent shudder. Then, abruptly, everything went quiet. No breathing, no footsteps, no whistle. Only the thud of my heart and the soft, persistent vibration of my phone in my palm. I realized I was still holding the inhaler so tight my fingers were cramping. The darkness seemed heavier now, pressing in on every side, and I wondered if something else had made it inside while I was listening for the monster above. A floorboard in Lexi's room creaked, slow and deliberate like a signal. I eased toward the hatch, holding my breath, praying I'd see her. But something moved in the shadows, and the attic filled with the smell of hot metal and rotting leaves. I shuffled backward until insulation bunched against my spine, fighting to keep my breathing shallow. The smell grew thicker, a metallic rot that made my eyes water and stomach twist. Below, the house settled with unnatural patience, as if waiting for my next mistake. The floorboard creaked again. I squeezed my eyes shut and pressed the inhaler into my palm. The buzzing of my phone didn't stop. I risked a glance. Lexi's contact photo lit up, her face grinning in her fake vampire teeth, but the call didn't connect. Instead, the static ringtone kept looping, mixed now with faint whispers I couldn't parse. Something brushed against the hatch. My mind raced through childhood memories. Lexi screaming at thunder, Dad whistling badly through missing teeth, every stupid, mundane fight at the dinner table. I almost laughed. The memories felt like someone else's life. I wanted them back so bad it hurt. The hatch creaked open a fraction. My heart seized. A thin, gray hand curled around the edge. Too many joints, skin waxy and bruised. I bit down hard to keep from sobbing. The hand retreated, and a voice, Lexi's this time I was sure, spoke from below. "Jake, are you up there? It's me." It sounded perfect, every inflection right. But something in me froze. I remembered how, when we were little, Lexi always lisped on words with S. Whoever was calling didn't. I pressed my phone to my chest and waited. Silence. Another message blinked onto my screen. This one from Dad's number, years out of service. "Don't trust the voices, don't trust the faces. Sunset isn't safe." Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my body wouldn't move. Instead, I found myself thinking about that frayed wallet photo, how Lexi's hand is blurry because she moved at the last second, how Dad's thumb covers half my face, the tiny, unfixable flaws that proved we were real. I gripped it until the edge dug deep into my palm. Down below, footsteps started again, a slow looping circuit around the house. The attic hatch was still cracked. I tried to peer down, but only darkness stared back. Then, out of nowhere, a whisper, not a voice, more like a thought, slipped into my mind. Not words, just hunger, cold and patient. Something wanted in. Something wanted to use my fear, my memories, my guilt. The attic seemed smaller, every wall pressing closer. I squeezed the inhaler so hard it nearly cracked. I heard Lexi's real voice, faint, outside. "Jake, I'm by the old tree. Don't answer anyone else." I forced myself up, legs shaking, and edged toward the window at the far end of the attic. It was nailed shut, but I could see the big oak in the backyard. A shadow stood beneath it, waving, a shape the size of my sister. I hesitated, then smashed the glass with the inhaler. The sound split the night and sent the things in the house into a frenzy. Something shrieked below. Clicks and whistles burst from every room. I crawled through the broken window, cutting my arm on the frame. The cold air burned my lungs as I dropped to the roof and slid, desperate, toward the tree. The shape didn't move. It waited. I dropped hard into the dirt, knee screaming, but I ran anyway. The world behind me exploded with sound, glass shattering, doors slamming, that impossible whistle warping into static and howls. Lexi, real, alive, eyes wide and terrified, grabbed my hand. Her palm was warm, real. She pressed her inhaler into my fist and yanked me after her, away from the house, away from the monsters calling our names with borrowed voices. We didn't look back. Not once. The sun was almost gone, just a blood-red slash on the horizon. I couldn't tell if what followed us was human or if it had ever been. But we kept running, through the yard, through the empty streets, holding on to each other and the scraps of what we remembered. Behind us, the house filled up with hungry, impossible voices, each one sounding more like us. If you're still listening, don't let anyone in after sunset. Don't trust voices, don't trust faces, no matter how much you want to. And if you make it through the night, hit subscribe for more stories like this, because the world only gets weirder from here.